Hi friends, so today we are diving into Luke chapter 16, and honestly this is probably one of the most difficult and challenging chapters and teachings of Jesus. He talks about money and stewardship, faithfulness in small things, the dangers of loving wealth, and eternity and what happens in the afterlife. So if you've ever wondered, like, what does God think about money, or how should I live, in light of eternity, we're going to kind of dive into that. Luke chapter 16. So Jesus tells a surprising parable about this manager who has misused his master's money. And he's about to lose his job, and he quickly reduces people's debt so that they'll help him out later, right? He's thinking ahead of the game, he thinks. So culturally, a manager in this time period would have handled the finances for the wealthy landowners. So this role involved trust and responsibility, okay? The master commends the manager, though. What? Wait, what? Right? I know, it's complicated. You see, Jesus isn't praising dishonesty, but he's praising shrewdness and foresight. The manager acted wisely in light of his future. Okay, well, let's look at this theologically. What Jesus is saying is that you have to use what you have now with eternity in mind. That's the point. Look at what this key verse says. Let me see, where did I put it? I just lost it. I have it here. But basically it says, like, the people of the world are more wise or more shrewd than the people of light. Okay. What Jesus is saying here is you've got to think ahead spiritually. You have to use what you have now so that it will last forever. Use what you have now so that it lasts forever. There's a point of faithfulness here, okay? And a point of, like, saying, like, you've got to know, oh, there it is. The master commended the dishonest manager for his shrewdness. For the sons of this world are more shrewd in dealing with their own generation than the sons of light. Make friends for yourselves by means of unrighteous wealth, so that when it fails, they may receive you into eternal dwellings. We have to keep eternity in mind. What are we doing? Kind of like what we were talking about yesterday with the parable of the prodigal son. What are you tangibly doing today for eternity tomorrow? What are you tangibly doing when it comes to your prodigals, for the faith of knowing that God's faithfulness will come to fruition in that? That's kind of the point of what this is saying. What we are tangibly doing, what we're putting our faith in, what we are looking ahead at, the steps that we're taking in faith for something that we don't foresee, but we know it's kingdom valued. That's what he's saying here. That's what he's saying. How are we managing our time, for example, with the purpose of heaven in mind? How are we managing our money in this case with the purpose of heaven in mind? Tithing, for example, is kingdom valued, and it is shrewd for eternity's sake. We may never see our 10% tangibly in our fingers. We may not totally see that payback necessarily, but the blessing that occurs in our future comes to fruition from what we're putting into it today. Another example would be for talking about the prodigal son and all of that stuff, like the way we honor our parents. That's the first commandment with a promise in the 10 Commandments, is honor your father and mother so that your days may be long upon the earth which the Lord your God has given you. Okay, it says it's the first commandment with a promise. Okay, so when we honor our parents, doesn't mean, remember, honor, it means to respect, to value them. Doesn't necessarily mean to like them all the time. For some of us, that's more difficult. But it does mean to forgive, because if we honor them, we've forgiven them. It may not mean, there may be healthy boundaries that have to be put in place, but that doesn't mean we can't honor them. And that, we have to pray about, how do I honor my parents despite their failings, despite their flaws, despite the hurts that have, happened or whatever. I mean, families are hard. So how do you honor your parents, even if you don't like them, or even if they're mean to you, or even if they're, fill in the blank? You're still called as per the commandments to honor your parents. So you're investing in honoring them, per se, according, kind of going along with this parable here. Your investment is honoring them. And what are you going to receive back? Kingdom-wise, you're going to receive long days upon the land which the Lord hath given you. Health, blessings, simply for honor. So that's kind of what this chapter is talking about. I know it's really complicated, right? So then he talks about faithfulness and money. And Jesus continues and he says, whoever's faithful in a little is going to be faithful in much. Oh my gosh, this is something that we tell our kids all the time. If you're faithful in a little bit, you'll be faithful in much. If you can handle small things, kids, if you can handle your early, bedtime, guess what? When you're older and we trust you with that, you're going to handle an later curfew, because we've trusted you with the small things. We're going to trust you with the big things. They don't really get that, but it's okay. But especially with money, though, the Lord is saying here, because money reveals your heart. How you handle money, how you see money reveals your heart. You can't serve both God and money, he says. And so again, this kind of gives us a picture of idolatry, right? When something takes the place of God in our lives, and how we manage what God gives us. Because these things that he gives us can become idols. Money's not the evil thing, but it's loving it that's dangerous. And it may not, you may think, oh, I don't love money, I don't have it. But do you love the things that money buys? Does having that purse or those shoes, or looking a certain way, or the designer, whatever, does that make you feel something other than humble? Does it give you, is there performance attached to it? Is there this I'm proving myself with this. Maybe it's the kind of car you drive. Maybe it's, the places you travel to. Does that kind of thwart a little bit your humility, bring a little bit of arrogance or pride to your heart? Only you would know that. Honestly, for me, like the other day, actually, I was, I love shoes. I've always loved shoes. And I had that thought in my head. I forget why. I can't remember what I was doing. But I had that thought. I was like, I wish I want to buy, red bottom Louboutin shoes. And immediately I thought, why? Like, why? Why do I want that? What is it? Is it status? Maybe. There's something in me that makes me feel like that would be, not that I want to prove anything to anybody, because I'm really not that kind of person, but there is a little twinge of like I don't know, of a rival, or just this, I don't know. I couldn't really pinpoint where it comes from, but I know it's not honoring God because of that, because there's a twinge of something there that I can't really pinpoint. And what's funny is I'm not the kind of person that really cares for brand name stuff at all. I like neat, pretty things. I like unique things. I could care less if I get it on Amazon or if I get it anywhere else, and I'm actually a little bit more frugal probably than most people think I am, but if I love it, I want to get it, right? And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with spending the money on it, but there was something there that twinged, that Holy Spirit conviction of like, why is that a need? And yet the Lord gives us so many good things. So I don't know. Anyways, money's not the problem, is what I'm trying to say. Our heart is. And so we have to choose God over everything. So then we have the Pharisees' reaction to this. And because the Pharisees loved money. They loved money until they mocked Jesus. And the religious leaders, they have a lot of wealth. And they associate it with God's blessings, which I think is, totally. If we have a lot, there are blessings, right? But again, we have to be so very careful about those blessings as well. Because what God values is so different than what the world values. So again, we have to remember the upside down kingdom, right? What looks important to people doesn't matter to God. It might not matter to God. Not that he doesn't love lavishing gifts on his children. He does. So it's, again, all about the heart. That's where it gets kind of difficult. We can't chase what the world values, though. We have to chase what God values. And so we have to constantly be in connection with the Holy Spirit, asking, Lord, okay, is this of you, for you, from you? Is this going to pull me to you, or is this going to take me away from you? So we end with the story of the rich man, right? And he lives in luxury. And then there's a poor man named Lazarus who suffers on the outside of the gate, and they both die. Lazarus is comforted. He's the poor man, but the rich man is in torment. The issue wasn't just wealth. It's ignoring God and neglecting others. So the passage teaches us eternal consequences are real. And life today affects your eternity and the final separation of God. We have to be compassionate for the poor. We have to be accountable before God. And the rich man realizes this, right? He asks for this warning to be sent to his family, which is so fascinating to me. And they say, well, they have Moses and the prophets. God's already given us the truth. Like, everything is in his word. And there's people shedding light to eternity all over the place, right? But so he doesn't have to do anymore. He's done it. Eternity is real. And what we do today with God matters forever. The conversations we have, the words we speak, the tangible steps of faith we take. We have to be wise with what God's given us, because the small things matter. And if we take money, and we use it according to what God's will is for it, that's a good thing. But if it's used to take the place of God, well, that's not a good thing, right? We have to live with eternity in mind, to have an eternal mindset. How is this affecting eternity? It's a wake-up call, friends. You're invited to live with purpose, and that purpose is with an eternal mindset in mind. We have to use our life, our time, our talents, our resources, our money for something that's going to truly, truly last. One thing in this chapter that I didn't touch on, but I'm going to just for a minute, because I know there's a lot of us in different places in our walk with the Lord, and then there's a lot of us that have walked through divorce and remarriage. Just want to touch on that, everyone, because it's kind of weird. It's kind of in an outside place. It feels that way. Anyways, but it says, everyone who divorces his wife and marries another commits adultery, and he who marries a woman divorced from her husband commits adultery. Why is that placed here when we're talking about money, when we're talking about the law and the prophets and the rich man and Lazarus? It's a little strange for it to be in this chapter, I think. Well, at first, anyways. But I think what it's talking it's talking about faithfulness. And that's why it's in this chapter. God hates divorce. That doesn't mean he hates divorced people. Okay? He hates the idea of divorce. He hates what it does, what divorce can sort of create. He hates the brokenness of what was to be a covenant. There are 1,000 reasons and a lot of good reasons for divorce. That was never God's intention or his plan. And so the reason that he's places this, that Luke places this here, he's specifically talking about adultery and adulterous things. Not necessarily that somebody cheated on somebody. I mean, that's a very good reason for divorce. But it's because he's saying that you've not been faithful. There's a lack of faithfulness. And I think especially for married people, whether you've been married or whether you've been divorced, you're remarried or married, whatever your case may be, even if you've been married for a long time, we have to be careful with the kind of seeds that we're planting. For those of you who are married, especially, whether it's, again, first, second, third marriage, whatever, it doesn't matter. Are you planting seeds of faithfulness into your marriage, or are you planting seeds of divorce? How are you being faithful to the little things that the Lord has given you? Can you be trusted with more? How are you managing in an eternal perspective? How are you managing your marriage? This is a whole other talk. We could talk about this all day. But, you can, for example, be planting seeds of divorce in your marriage if there's any resentment, bitterness, unforgiveness in your heart. You're planting things and then watering them, and you're watching these weeds grow up that are going to just entangle yourself into what will become divorce if you're not careful. And that is showing that you're not proving faithful in your marriage. You're being adulterous to sin, basically. You're having a love affair with sin. Bitterness, anger, resentment, name it, against your spouse. You've been given this relationship that is tender, and it's a covenant between you and your spouse and God. And what you plant into it, the seeds of faithfulness, are going to be rewarded. And sometimes in our marriages, kind of like the prodigal, sometimes there's a long waiting period. There's looking out to see your marriage return to what it was, and even greater. It has the ability to do that when we're rooted in Jesus and when we're faithful to him, and when our marriage is faithful to him. So that's why it's in there. I'm pretty sure, at least to some extent. Being faithful with the small, with your husband's heart, it's really, really important. So be blessed.